everyone. So I in no way got enough footage tonight to do a regular vlog like we always do. So instead, I decided to sit down, now that Ivan's in bed, to sit down and tell you the story of my pregnancy journey with him. So forewarning, if you don't want to hear this, you can stop watching the video, but if you know you're someone who wants to find out about what I went through or to hear someone else's experience, then please by all means continue to watch the video. One of the reasons why I'm doing this is because this is one of the things that really got me through my pregnancy, was seeing other people's journeys, seeing what everyone else went through and their stories. So I really wanted to share that with you guys and anyone else who may be watching who may be going through the same thing or has obviously had kids and just wants to hear other people's stories. I'm all about sharing the stories of like what we've each gone through to make our own kids. Like, it's such a cool thing to experience, and everybody's is different. No one goes through the exact same thing. You may say, oh, this happened to me, but it's never this happened to me, so it's gonna happen to you. Like, it's never like that. But I love hearing other people's experiences, and I hope that someone out there would like to hear mine. So that's why I'm making this video in place of today's normal vlog. And if you like it, then I'll go ahead and do the story about my labor and delivery and my nursing journey with Ivan and all that fun stuff. So here we go. This is my story. So to get started here, I should probably jump back to about a year before we decided to start having kids. So we got engaged on our anniversary in October, and shortly after that, since we were probably going to have the wedding in the next couple months, because of other things that I could go into in another video, I decided that I had put this off for a while. I finally went to the lady doctor. I just put it off for a very long time, much longer than I ever should have. And if you haven't gone, ladies, it's time to go. And so it was just a normal routine, checkup and everything. And there are various members in my family who have PCOS. So if you don't know what that is, that's polycystic ovarian syndrome. And you can look into it to see what that is. But basically, it can make you irregular and cause some issues just in general with your ovaries and your eggs and things like that. And sometimes it can make it difficult for you to get pregnant. So because I have family members who have this, and I am also a very, very irregular person, I can go months and months and months without having a period. They suggested that I let the doctor know about it, just so it's something to kind of cover. And since I knew that we were getting married shortly, I was like, we're probably going to start talking about having kids at some point in the next year or so. So if there's something I need to be active about, it's probably talking about this kind of stuff. So while I was at the appointment, she was, great up until afterwards when she started, when she asked if I had any questions, and I told her that, my family members have PCOS and that it was something I should bring up. And she literally said this. She's like, oh, well, if they have it, then you definitely have it. And I just sat there like, what? I'm sorry, what? She's like, yeah, you definitely have it then. If you're that irregular, then you totally have it. So then she explained PCOS to me and said that the only solution to help me would be birth control. I left the doctor's office in tears. It was so abrupt and aggressive, and I had not been on birth control before at all. That it was not the form of birth control that we used. I just did not want to be on the pill. It's great for some people, it helps for some people, but for me, I don't want anything else messing with my hormones, with my system. I know other people that it really messed with them, and I just did not want that in my body. That's just me. Works for some people, not for me. And they kept just pushing it and shoving it down my throat, and I was just not okay with that. And I was very, very upset, and I went home, and my mom was working at the time, so I couldn't talk to her, so I called my mother-in-law, and I'm just crying on the phone. I'm just like, I don't understand, like, how they can just go about talking like this and just pushing me into something I'm not comfortable with. Like, that's not what doctors are supposed to do. So she calmed me down a bit, and then I talked to my mom, and my mom told me that they can't just tell you have it. You have to actually be diagnosed with it. So if you have to be diagnosed with it, I'm very confused as to how that was the situation. Like, I felt like she was literally like, oh, you need to be on birth control. Let me just say that you have this to make you go on birth control. That's literally what it ended up feeling like to me. So after that, I calmed down, and I was like, all right, you know what? I'm not trying to have kids right now. Let's just worry about the wedding. We got married, and a couple months later, we decided to start trying. And I honestly figured, because I'm so irregular, it would be difficult to get pregnant. And, you know, most people, it doesn't happen right away. So we just went along with it. We were trying for about 2.5 months, and I was like, all right, I should go get checked out one more time. Because at that point I had, you know, so many negative pregnancy tests, and I was just like, I know it was only a couple of months, but I can't imagine what people go through year after year of not being able to conceive, because I was literally, every time I looked at that little stick, even though I knew it wasn't happening, it just broke my little heart. Like, it was really, really hard to keep getting that negative when you're wanting it so badly. So I went back to the same doctor. I was like, okay, maybe she was having an off day that time. Maybe it was just a fluke. I like to be optimistic about people. My mistake, because I asked her if there was any advice she had, anything she would recommend other than what I've already read online and all the books that I've read and things like that. And she just said, oh, you're irregular? Well, then that probably means that you're only ovulating maybe 6 out of the 12 months of the year, maybe. So it's just gonna be really, really, really hard for you to get pregnant. And that was it. That was literally all the advice she gave me. She did tell me to start taking folic acid, but that was it. That was literally it. That's all she had to give me. So I at some point, I don't know if it was before or after this, I sat down with my mom, and she told me about taking your basal body temperature every morning to, you know, see when you're ovulating and all of that, which it had to have been before, because I was doing this for a couple of months, and I really believe that's how I got pregnant, because I was able to see when that was happening. So less than a couple of weeks after I had that doctor's appointment, I got pregnant. And of course you don't find out for like another month after that. I found out I was pregnant on December 2nd, which means I got pregnant sometime in November, early November. And then obviously, you know, you get a positive test 5-6 weeks after. So that made me laugh, that, you know, this doctor was like, it's going to be hard for you to get pregnant. And literally just a couple weeks after that, it was probably a week, maybe 2, I was pregnant. And that was my big middle finger up to you, lady. Like, it was just, oh my God. Anyway, so I finally found out I was pregnant. It was the most nerve-wracking day of my life. I literally took the test, and, you know, I dipped it in the cup, and then I just went to go take a shower and was getting ready, and then all of a sudden I just like looked over at the stick, and there were 2 lines. 2 lines on that thing. And I just was like, what? Because obviously I've never had that happen before. I didn't know what to do. Justin was asleep. I was getting ready to go to work, and I couldn't function. I got my phone out when I finally got to work, and I was sitting in the parking lot like, guys, I don't know what to do. So I was like I was just recording myself to get my reaction because I wanted to have that to remember. So I'm at work all day and I'm like jittery, and some people knew like something was up with me, but I was just like, I'm in a good mood and I'm just being a little weird today, but whatever. So then I went and I bought a little bib and a cake, and I put "thanks for knocking me up" on it, and then I showed Justin, and we were just thrilled. And it was crazy because as much as it was difficult to deal with those 3.5 months of getting negatives, it was still crazy to think that it actually happened that fast when I was just assuming that it was going to take longer. We told everybody that we were pregnant on Christmas, and which was just the best because Christmas is my favorite holiday. It's me and my dad's favorite holiday. We just like obsess over Christmas. So that was something really special that we got to do, was tell everybody that we were pregnant at Christmas. So that was amazing. Then we had our first appointment in mid-January, and I'll never forget, I'm gonna cry. I'll never forget the first ultrasound. When we saw him, he was like just this little thing, and the ultrasound tech just said, "That's your baby." And I just lost it. I lost it right there. I was crying. I was holding Justin's hand. Oh my God, I'm crying now. Oh my God. Okay, oh, I'm good. I'm good. So he was perfect. He was just this little thing. The heartbeat was great. All throughout the pregnancy, there was never anything that showed that Ivan was not healthy, not growing properly. He was just fine. There was nothing ever wrong with him. Real quick, I'll jump here to me finding out the gender. So we actually had some friends of ours hold on to the gender for us. We didn't want to know. We wanted to do a gender reveal party, and we actually, I'll leave a link somewhere for that video. But we basically wanted to do a silly string gender reveal. I thought that was so cute. It looked so fun. And then we found out we were having a boy, which was just great. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, like, I wanted a girl, but now that I have a boy, it's amazing. I love him so much, and honestly, if he was a girl, I'd be heartbroken because he wouldn't be who he is, and I love him to death, and I wouldn't want it any other way. So if you deal with gender disappointment, it is a thing. It does happen, but once you get over it and once you have that baby, it's irreplaceable. Like, I can't even explain it. Like, you'll be fine. I promise. If you are a little disappointed or even a lot disappointed about the gender of your baby, it's okay. You'll be good, I promise. I promise you'll be okay. It's just rough. Cry a lot, and breathe and move on, and you will be okay. You will be more than okay. The baby is just perfect, and it's your joy, and it's your whole life. So I promise everything will be fine. Now, as far as I go, there were all kinds of things wrong with me. About a week after I had the positive pregnancy test, I started throwing up, and I did not stop until the 3rd trimester. I had a lot of back pain, lots of nausea, and I was very, 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 very tired. For a while, the only thing I could have was ginger ale and sometimes saltines, but basically pretzels. My morning sickness was that. It was just morning sickness, but I was nauseous the rest of the day, and I really couldn't get any food down. Like, I just couldn't do it. At one point, about mid-2nd trimester, I did finally say to the doctors, listen, I am really nauseous. I'm barely able to function because of it. What can we do? Is there anything we can do? And they gave me these little pills, these little anti-nausea pills. They actually had cute little pregnant women on it, and I thought it was really cute. I was taking them, and one day when I was working at a bank at the time. I was a teller, and I was literally working with a customer. I was helping him, and all of a sudden, just everything went dark, and I just sat down on the floor and I just couldn't move because I couldn't see anything. It was weird. It was like, and my brain felt hazy and I just couldn't see anything. And I was like, this is ridiculous. Like, how am I supposed, this is happening now? What if I was driving? Like, it was really scary. It was really, really scary. And of course I was really concerned because of the baby. I went into the doctor immediately afterwards because I was just like, is everything okay? And they said everything was fine, so they said to keep taking it, so I did, and it ended up happening again. So I decided to stop myself. And then there was a day that Justin and I got a stomach flu, and it was just awful, and we were throwing up within an hour of each other, and that was right at the end of the second trimester, basically the beginning of the third. And that's when I finally stopped having morning sickness. I was taking prenatal vitamins, but I realized that taking them was making me nauseous. It was making me not able to keep anything down. So at one point I did make the decision to stop taking them. And I know they're very important and I totally support everybody using them, but the way that I saw it is we, as a human race, have survived without taking prenatal vitamins until in the last, 60 years or so when they decided to start taking them, and I think it's less than that. Now, I know it's good for the baby and everything, but obviously my body's providing the proper nutrition and just all the proper things for the baby. And as long as I'm eating well, that's fine, but I can't eat if I'm throwing everything up. So I made the decision to stop taking them and just take care of myself and take care of my baby. And I got a lot of flack from the doctors and from the nurses about that. And while I understand how important it is, I still think that providing nutrients like food to your body and to your baby so you're strong enough to carry the baby and deliver the baby is probably more important than taking a few vitamins. So it was difficult dealing with that kind of judgment because they asked me every time and I had to constantly tell them no, and they would give me this look like, you really should be taking them. It's not their business. Like, I'm telling you what I'm doing, but you can't decide for me what's best for me and what's best for my baby. And I encourage all you moms or moms to be out there that you stick with what you know is best. Your mom's instinct, your mother's instinct is there for a reason, and you need to trust it. And I didn't trust it throughout my whole pregnancy. There were things that I just listened to the doctors, and I regret listening to them and not listening to my instinct. That's not saying they don't know what they're talking about. I'm not saying that. But like I said at the beginning of this video, everybody's situation's different. And you need to accommodate to your own situation. You don't always need to follow the rules like that. And I really wish that I had done things differently. In my next pregnancy, I will be doing things differently. Whenever that happens, that is not anytime soon, so I'm not putting that out there. So anyway, once the third trimester hit, a couple weeks after that, I changed jobs. And I was driving an hour away to work. Therein lies a whole other problem. My body was just not having it. I was sore all the time, as you are in the third pregnancy, or in the third trimester. What happened was I was working. I was just in the middle of a consultation that I was doing. Basically, I do like interviews over the phone and I gather information. So I was in the middle of that and I'm on the computer, I'm typing everything up while I'm talking to this guy, and all of a sudden, I have no idea what I'm saying. My body is saying things, but I'm not mentally connecting to it. And then I started seeing like spots and my vision started to go and close in on me so that I couldn't see anything. And all of a sudden my right hand just went numb, like as if you were sleeping on it and it kind of fell asleep. But I just couldn't, I was going like this and I like couldn't feel anything, and I was touching it and it was exactly like it was asleep. And it slowly started to go from my hand all through this side of my body and just go here and like stop halfway through my body. And I was convinced it was a stroke. That can happen when you're pregnant. So I somehow finished the consultation. I literally, to this day, have no idea what I said to him, what I did. I got up from my desk and I was like, all right, let's just walk this off. Let's walk this off. I'm up on the 3rd floor, so I walked down 3 floors and I went to the bathroom downstairs, and I just sat there and I was like, I don't know what's going on, because by this point it had spread through my face and started going to the other side of my body, the numbness. So however I could, I called my mom and I was like, did this ever happen to you while you were pregnant? And she's like, no, call 911. So I called an ambulance, and I felt ridiculous because I had just started working at this place. I'm pregnant, I'm huge, I'm new, and I'm calling an ambulance to my workplace. It was so embarrassing, but very necessary. Basically, I had been slurring my words, and the numbness, it just really was scary. I was slurring my words, and I have no idea how I sounded. It was just very, very frightening. So they ended up coming, the ambulance, and we decided to go to the local hospital, the closest hospital, just to get everything checked out, because God forbid I had a stroke or something. I was feeling better by the time they got there. I was still tingling, but I was able to move and I wasn't as fuzzy. But I decided we should go. So they were measuring my contractions, because by that point I was having the Braxton Hicks. They were checking everything out and they couldn't find anything wrong. They did a head CT. Nothing was off, nothing seemed wrong. So what they ended up diagnosing it as is a complex migraine. So like, that happens. But it doesn't make it any less terrifying. Basically, they said it's all the symptoms of a stroke, but it's not a stroke. So that sucked. It was scary, it was awful, and I basically had a stroke. But it wasn't a stroke. So I'm thankful that it wasn't, but it was still terrifying. So after that, I was normal, I was better, I didn't have another one. So we ended up going to New York, actually, in July to see one of my favorite actors in a Broadway show, because we were like, it's the last time we're going to be able to see a Broadway show in a while, so let's go. Let's finally see this guy, and we'll be good to go for a while. So we went, we got very, very lost, and we were walking a lot more than I'm used to, or that I was used to at the time. And that's what really kickstarted my contractions. I had had Braxton Hicks, but this really kicked it into gear. So by the time we finally found the theater, after I was stopping and starting and stopping and starting my walking, I ran to the bathroom before the show started, and I was red, like so red in the face. And I'm never like that, even when I work out or I'm outside for a long time and it's hot. I don't get that, you know, beet red look in my cheeks, but I was so red. Anyway, so we sat there, enjoyed the show. Ivan was in there bouncing around. And yeah, it was amazing, except for it kickstarted my contractions. So, Darren Criss, I blame you for starting me going into early labor because that was a couple weeks before I was due. So after the musical, we went home. That kickstarted my real contractions. My contractions from then on were anywhere between 10 to a minute apart. All day, all night, every day, really bad, really, really bad. Really strong contractions. It's 36 weeks and 5 days, and my contractions were less than 5 minutes apart. So we decided to go to the hospital. My mother-in-law and my mom came with us. And so we went into triage, and they waited a little bit. They measured my contractions. They checked me to see if I was dilated. So hopefully this picks up where we left off. But So after this woman stabbing me with this needle, and they're not giving me any advice on how to progress my labor, they were like, oh, well, maybe you're dehydrated. So let's give you some medicine to help you sleep, and if you wake up and your contractions are still as close together and strong, then you're definitely in labor, and if they're not, then you're gonna go home. So that killed me. I was like, are you kidding? Since I was not 37 weeks, off by 2 days, they decided to not help me progress my labor because they legally can't. But they had the stupid due date wrong. I know when he was conceived. I was doing every single date. I was keeping track of it. I know when he was conceived. They were off by a week. They added a week onto what his due date should have been. So that's what I really struggled with through my whole pregnancy, was they basically added a week on. If they had gone by what it actually was, then they would have helped me progress my labor and I would have had him, because my body was telling me it was time. They gave me this medicine. It was a shot in the butt, which hurt really bad, by the way. And they, it basically makes you drunk without actually being drunk, which is weird. So I got really loopy, and then I started crying because I was so upset about the whole situation. I just wanted to have the baby. You know, my body's saying, let's go, let's have him. And because I was told not to walk around, because I was told this, because I was told things, and I didn't listen to my body, the contractions ended up stopping because they stopped it. Now I'm convinced that this nurse was like, oh, you're not 37 weeks, you're not in labor, let's make it stop. They stopped my labor. The hardest part about this was I work an hour away from my house, even farther away from the hospital I was supposed to deliver at. And driving that distance while you're pregnant and having these contractions is very, very dangerous, and it was very scary for me. And no one was listening to that, and I needed to have this baby. I needed to have him very soon because I was driving like this. Anyway, they ended up sending us home because they ended up spreading back out to the 10 to 1 minute apart, and they were not as strong as they were. So we went home, and for the next 3 weeks, I kept going to work with these contractions. They would get closer, and they were just as strong. They were as strong as real labor contractions, and I know that because they were just as strong when I actually went into labor. So for 3 weeks, I drove an hour to work, having full-blown labor contractions, but they were not consistent in timing. So they wouldn't do anything to help. And it's because they stripped my membranes that this happened, and because I was in labor. So basically, guys, I was in full-blown labor for 3 weeks. So Ivan Jean, thank you for that. I don't blame you, baby. I blame the doctors. So I was in labor for 3 weeks. I went in 2 more times after that to see if it was time, if I had progressed anymore. At one point I thought my water broke, and I did not progress. But just so you know, you're allowed to get an epidural at 4 centimeters. So I was walking around having full-blown labor contractions, dilated as much as people are when they get epidurals. So needless to say, I was thrilled. So fast forward to 3 weeks later, and I was in so much pain, and I finally went to the hospital, and I was 6 centimeters, and they were like, all right, you're having this baby. So I'm gonna actually end the story there. I did have the baby after that, obviously. I will do another video sometime soon about my actual labor experience, and then we'll do another one, like I said before, about the my nursing journey with Ivan and going to work and pumping and all of that. So that was my pregnancy. It was not very fun. I hated it the entire time. It's funny how afterwards, you know, your body like forgets what happened and you get like a little bit of baby fever and you're like, oh. I swear the other day was like, I don't know what happened, but I was like, I thought to myself, oh, I miss being pregnant. I loved being pregnant. That was the best time of my life. And I stopped and I was like, no, it wasn't. You hated it. It was the worst experience of your life. Having a child was the best experience, but being pregnant and your labor, I was like, honey, Sammy, no. I don't know what it is with your body and making you forget the horrors that you went through, but here's the documentation for myself. I am in no way ready to have another baby. We are not in any way ready. I want to enjoy my son, enjoy this wonderful time that we have with him, especially when it's just him, because you don't get that time back. Even when you have another baby, you don't get that one-on-one time of it just being you guys. You don't get that. So this is a really wonderful time in my life, in my husband's life, with our son, and we just want to really enjoy this time with him. And anytime that I hold like my niece or any other little baby and I'm like, oh, I miss this, I miss my son being that little. I miss having that time with Ivan because I was at work. It is hard to have missed all that time with him. So yeah, that's my pregnancy journey. Any pregnant mamas out there watching this, girls, you got this. Listen to your body. Listen to yourself. Obviously listen to the doctors in a way where you ask for their advice. They do generally know what's best, but if you feel like you're being pressured into something that feels wrong, don't listen. Just, it's that simple. Don't listen. I mean, it's one thing to take suggestions, but if you know in the deepest parts of your soul and your gut that what they're saying is wrong, don't listen to them. I very well might not be going to the same doctors with my next pregnancy because of the way that this happened, because of the experience that I had. If they don't respect what you're going through, then you need to find someone who's going to understand. And, you know, I know there are some people out there who, you know, they say things because they want the baby out. I get it. I was at that place. I definitely was. But when I went into labor, my body was saying, hey, it's time. And they were like, no, it's not. Your body knows. Your body knows. Unless you have some crazy thing like preeclampsia, your body knows what's right. The baby knows what's right. You need to trust yourself and know what's best for you. So that's all I can really advise you on, is follow what your body and what your heart is telling you, and you'll be good to go. That little baby is the best blessing that'll ever happen to you. So guys, if you like the video, give it a thumbs up, leave a comment, subscribe, tell me about your stories. If there's anything interesting about your journey that you went through, if there's anything you want to share, leave a comment down below, let us know. And I will be doing my labor journey sometime soon. Thank you so much for watching, and we will see you guys tomorrow in our regularly scheduled daily vlog. Thanks so much, guys. Have a good one. Bye.